I am Heidi Benjaminson, your host of Confidence Coaching, a podcast for mothers who want to have rock-solid relationships with their teenagers. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello, welcome to episode 134, when our teens leave the path, and the path is in quotes. Hello, podcast listeners. I'm glad you're here and trust me with a few minutes of your time. Thank you for subscribing and sharing the podcast with your friends, your sisters, your neighbors. Be sure to check out the short YouTube videos that accompany each episode, where I add more detail or go in depth in some small tip. Subscribe and watch in YouTube, or click in the weekly email, or you can watch from the link in my Instagram profile as well. I'm all about making it easy for you. I know that I need easy too. Today, I want to share a story, an experience I had with you, and then draw your attention to our attitudes when we are the one inside the story, or how, if we're outside the story looking in, how our comments and words impact others. So stay with me to learn one of the most profound lessons I've learned and that I mentally reference back to every single day. The fall before COVID, so this was September 2019, I woke up to a beautiful and bright fall day here in the Boston suburbs. It was a weekday and I was going to meet some church friends at our temple in Belmont, Massachusetts for a morning of spiritual nourishment and service to others, and I needed to be there by 10 a.m. And I usually go to the temple with a couple other friends. We meet at a central place and we drive to Belmont together. But on this morning, I was driving there alone. I jumped in my car and I put the temple address in the Waze direction app, that GPS app that's on my phone. I got in my car like about 9 a.m. Now, the temple is a very direct route or path from my house. The trip is usually 45 minutes, but I'm just mainly on 3 main roads. I take one main road from my house for about 25 minutes to the big highway that goes around Boston. But as soon as I got in my car and started down Route 20, or the one main road by my house, my Waze app, my GPS, quickly had me making some turns off of that road. I trusted the app and I kind of said to myself, I hypothesized, you know what? Okay, there must be traffic up ahead. It is a busy road, even when it isn't rush hour. And 9 a.m., well, I just really wasn't that concerned at all that it had me turning off this most direct path. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it was a beautiful day. The sky was this bright, bright blue. Fall hadn't completely started here in New England. It was warm, like low 70s, but there were hints of fall beginning to show. There were hints of orange. There was a pumpkin here or there. The air was so fresh and I was totally enjoying the trip. I can't remember if the radio was on or not, but it wasn't distracting me. I was alone. I was just lost in good thoughts, and I seemed to be paying attention to little, if anything, but just the nice details up the trip. I kept referring back to the GPS, and I would just take the next turn that it told me to take. And there were just lots and lots of turns. I had a sense that I was heading in the right direction, as I had taken back roads before, but I really only looked for what was the next turn that I have to make. These back roads, they were taking me through beautiful towns, on long, windy New England roads. The homes and the yards were beautiful. Some were big, some were modest, but most were well maintained. There were rock walls everywhere, colored doors, there was still green grass. The sky and the sun just seemed to make the colors pop. At some point I realized, I'm now making some turns that I've never taken before. I'm on roads I've never been on. I saw a welcome to some town that I had no idea I would even go through to get to the temple in Belmont. I wasn't concerned. I just was kind of intrigued and interested. I had total trust that my GPS was taking me to the address that I had plugged in. I just had to keep making the next turn. In fact, I never once was concerned that just because I wasn't on the main roads, just because I wasn't on the most direct roads for my house, that I wouldn't get to the place I had plugged in. I knew the GPS was taking me around traffic, maybe taking me around some accidents. It was getting me where I needed to go at the time I needed to be there. Now, I remember going on a road with huge speed bumps that I didn't even anticipate. And then I went on this darling road with a covered bridge. And it dawned on me, where am I? Should I be concerned? This has been such an enjoyable ride, so pretty, so peaceful. Am I really going to make it? It was at this point that I was overcome with this incredible wash of a realization. See, I was also preparing to speak at a women's conference a month later, where a piece of my topic was finding joy in the journey. This whole time, and actually kind of that whole month, that theme had been on my mind in general. So it wasn't out of nowhere that I had this amazing aha moment. This right now, this joy, this feeling of complete trust and faith that I'm going to get where I'm going regardless of the path, this is the feeling I want about my life and about my children's life. I don't want to worry and be anxious if we or they are going to take turns that are not the, quote, most direct route, or the route everyone else thinks is better. I want the peace. I want to be looking for the rock walls and admiring the unique architecture and the New England churches and steeples everywhere. I want to be relaxed. I want to be trusting in the next turn and not studying and planning and doubting if the step or turn number 6 ahead is really the right one. It was such an incredible feeling and a moment for me. It was this teaching moment because I saw so clearly how easy it would be to stress and doubt the path. It would be easy to decide it was the wrong path because most people take the direct highways. But the highways miss the beauty of the windy roads. And on that day, the most direct route would not have been the right route for me. Now, you'll be happy to hear it was right at this point that the GPS dropped me out right on the highway that goes to the temple. I was maybe 7 minutes away and I got there by the skin of my teeth. I really don't know where I was until that last ascent up to the temple. I've thought about this experience from a few different perspectives, as the person on the route, as a parent with a child on this route, and also as a friend who's commenting to others about the routes she sees other people making or the children of my friends are taking. It's so easy, y'all, to think in life that there's one right way to grow up, to be human, to be successful. Regardless if we're ready or not, the right way maybe is starting school when we're 5 years old. The right path seems to be going to college right out of high school. If someone isn't going, we wonder why. We think the direct path means that life will be easier, or you'll make more money, or be more fulfilled, or something. Collectively, we believe you get married, then you have children, or you buy a house, and then you have children. If our children do things or don't do things that our families, our cultures, social, religious, or otherwise revere as being the best way, it's easy to think something has gone wrong, or to think they need to course correct as quickly as possible and get back on that prescribed, quote, right path. If we're the one on the path and our personal GPS or common sense or life situation or divine intuition is telling us to take a turn, we want to turn off the main path with the same confidence and faith that I had on my drive that day. We're still going to the same ultimate place. Our destination is programmed. If we drop the stress and anxiety about getting back to the path everyone else is seemingly on and start enjoying our journey, our own unique path, we start seeing the pretty fall flowers, the rock walls. We can relax into the windy New England-like roads of life, and we can think they're fun. The journey will be the same journey. We get to decide if the ride is full of stress and worry, or can it be full of curiosity and wonder and hope. It requires having faith to just make the next turn. Even on that day, if I had turned too early, my GPS would have gotten me to the next turn, a street later. This requires us giving up having to know the entire way of how everything is going to turn out. A girlfriend of mine shared that she got married young and was divorced a few years later, and she felt shame and embarrassment and felt so off the path that she had envisioned for her life. She said it took her a few years to realize that the exact path that she needed to be on was this path to meet her second and amazing husband, the father of her children, who she never would have met without being married to her first husband and learning what she did with him. Some people may look at divorce as being off the direct path, but her direct path did have divorce, and it takes faith and confidence to follow our own GPS, knowing that we're avoiding our own obstacles and traffic and hardship that others may not think is on the direct path. Which takes me to another perspective I really want us to think about and ponder. And this is how we think and interact with other people who appear to be off that right path, or how we interact with the parents of teens and young adults who are taking a path that isn't what our default brain and society think are the safest path to success. Imagine that a friend of mine was tracking me on Life 360 or Track My Phone, and she knew that I was going to the temple that morning. With her limited knowledge and not knowing what my GPS was telling me, she could have called me with a lot of worry and anxiety and said, "Heidi, where are you? Why in the world are you on Concord Road in Sudbury? I thought you said you were going to the temple. Why aren't you headed to 128? She may have even tried to give me directions to get me to the right highway if she was super concerned. Imagine how this would have interrupted my beautiful and peaceful drive. All of a sudden, I would have been worried. Do I trust my GPS? And should I make the next turn that it tells me? Or do I now get stressed and worried because my friend is worried that I'm not taking this other well-worn and direct path? That would not have been helpful and actually would have delayed me getting there, and it would have dampened the relaxation and joy of the trip. I would have stopped looking at the simple beauty of the trip. Another option is that a friend could have been tracking me and saw where I was, and she could have called and said, "Heidi, oh my goodness, tell me the color of the next door that you see. Aren't those centuries-old walls so pretty? Oh my gosh, did you hit that big bump that comes out of nowhere? Okay, how is the sky? Tell me about the journey and the beauty and the uniqueness." Of course, we're just imagining this, but if a friend had said that, she would have trusted that I'm following my GPS. She wouldn't have thought that she knew the path. She would have even said, "Oh, I've taken those back roads before too. Don't worry, it'll drop you off on Route 2 very close to the temple. You may seem lost now, but trust me, you aren't. Now, tell me about the sky. Is it gorgeous?" Her questions would have reflected that she isn't worried and that she doesn't know what's right for me. That energy, those questions project confidence to me to know how to handle the obstacles, to be trusting that I'm making decisions based on data that I've plugged into my GPS. Her energy would have projected that she trusts that we all sometimes make wrong turns, that traffic piles up in places. Her energy would have said, "It's all going to be okay, and you're just fine." So when we see our friends whose children don't seem to be taking the path that everyone else is, who are maybe taking a gap year or two, who switch colleges, maybe have to go to summer school to finish school, maybe they change majors, they drop out of college, maybe a child from a very non-military family signs up for boot camp, or a child gets pregnant before getting married or before they had planned. Maybe a young adult in my faith community doesn't go on a mission, or young adults get married then divorced, or struggle to stay employed, or so on and so on. What energy do we want to project to the kids and parents on that path from our limited view? Can we admit to ourselves we don't know what's best for them? Will our questions be ones that ask with that tone of concern? So why didn't you choose to do this? Or do you know why your child chose to do that? Or can our questions be directed to, "Tell me more about what they're doing"? Often the best bet is to not even ask questions. Follow the lead of the person on the path. Silence can sometimes be the best confidence. And asking someone why they didn't do this other thing, it implies that they're off the best path. It implies they aren't taking good turns, making good choices. And other people feel this. We've all felt someone else's worry and anxiety, and it doesn't feel good. It becomes disconnecting when we only approach people with anxiety for what their next choice might be. Right now, my oldest isn't sure what college he wants to go to in the fall, and lots of people ask him. That's totally normal. I have even been inquiring a few times and wondering just about what our family schedule might be. But I've noticed that this projects anxiety to him. Asking him about the one thing that he isn't sure about and he kind of thinks he should be sure about, it's not helpful to him. And I know he'll stop wanting to be around people who project the energy of worry and stress to him. What is helpful is focusing on the things that are going well, focusing on the present and the positive, and letting him ask for guidance when he needs it. So if I really had been lost on my trip that day, I could have called someone for help. We have to trust that people on their own path will ask for help when they need it. Otherwise, our unsolicited help is taken as stress and a lack of confidence. Now, do we want to offer support when someone is on a hard road? Of course, but be careful and make sure you have a relationship with that person that is that close. And you can just say, I'm here if you need to talk or vent. Otherwise, I'm going to figuratively ask you about the beautiful rock walls and to share with me the details of this journey with no judgment or anxiety. Trust listens. Trust and confidence don't offer advice. They give advice only if asked. Some replies when someone tells you something about their young adult is doing, some replies can be, oh, I hear wonderful things about being a plumber or mechanic, or about working a year in London, or I know a lot of people who leave medical school. I'm sure a lot of thought has gone into those decisions. Tell me about their business. Ask questions that reflect confidence, hope, and calm. If you're worried, and it's okay if you are, don't make comments until you've dealt with your worry and your comments from a different place. Often I have to collect myself and get myself to a calm and a good place before I make comments. I have mantras I tell myself over and over. It's all going to be okay. And in the context of this story, I say, we're all getting to a great destination, a divine and grace-filled destination, all at the time that we're supposed to get there. I remind myself, I know so little of my children's GPS, and I know we do worry that our kids' GPS is broken or getting some weak signals. Our power is in deciding, do our comments and how we show up, are we fueling trust to them and their GPS? Or are we showing up with anxiety that will weaken their GPS signals? Because if they're lost or make wrong turns, our trust and confidence will draw them in and they'll want to ask us for directions. If we constantly project stress, they won't want to ask us for directions. Let me close with this. We don't know the right path for other people. We birth children thinking we knew a good and successful path for them. We teach values, we live values. It's good to have standards and expectations. At the same time, faith and trust and confidence require us to release knowing what the actual path will be for our kids. It's hard. I get it. I'm doing it too. I don't always do it perfect. I have to apologize. I check in hourly with my emotions and what I'm projecting out. I check in with what I believe about myself, and I try my hardest to be a support to my dear friends who are traveling these roads with me. I want to be the friend who they can call to laugh when they hit the gigantic speed bump, or the friend who has seen that covered bridge and laughs and cries with them, even if the car breaks down and my friend needs me to bring them a Diet Coke. Nothing has gone wrong. It might be hard, but we've all got it. Our kids, they've got it too. That's it for this week. If you would like personalized weekly one-on-one coaching to build a strong relationship with your teen, sign up for a consult call at HeidiBenjaminson.com. A confident mother is the greatest gift to her family, not a perfect mother. Our families want us to feel confident, anchored, and calm. I can help you uncover this version of yourself. Have a great week.